Welcome to Lift Your Story podcast with guest Annette Smith, host of the Music Junkies podcast. Hi, everyone. I am that gal. I am Lorianne from Mississauga, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we're really pleased to have Annette Smith, and I have known Annette for a little while now, so I'm really excited to have her on. And Roy is now being introduced, this lovely lady, and she is the host of Music Junkies. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Awesome. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to get going. Roy, I'm excited about hearing some stories from you as well, right? I already know Lorianne, and so far, she hasn't really talked very much about you, so that's not a really good start.
That's okay. That's okay.
Just wondering who's interviewing you here.
Yeah. So I always want to be a guest on a podcast. So
we could make your dreams come true.
You're a financial planner.
I am.
What's it like being a financial planner in today's times?
You know, honestly, there is not anything really different. It doesn't, I think a lot of times, and I guess it depends what kind of financial plan you're doing, but I feel like a lot of people think that we go with the market and we go with emotion and we go with kind of what's going on around us, outside sources. And I just feel like I've always been the planner where I'm dealing with my clients cradle to grave. Doesn't really matter what's going on in the world today, as long as they know that an advisor's there to help them. The only difference I've really seen is more people are buying more critical illness, disability, and making sure their wills and life insurance is in place. So other than that, I haven't really seen anybody freak out and be like, oh my God, the world's coming to an end. I want to pull some money out, or I want to cancel everything. And I think that just depends on the type of advisor you are, right? When I contact all my clients, I take care of my clients. So when they are maybe feeling anxious or nervous about something, they know that they can just call me and I'll answer the phone and we will be able to address them, where a lot of advisors have 7,000, 8,000 clients and don't give a shit about them. So it's a challenging question because I think it all depends on the type of advisor that you are.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. I had 401ks all over the world. And so finally, when I was getting ready to retire, I thought, I need to probably put these in one spot here. So, I was calling up, hey, I worked there in 1984. I think I had a 401k. How do I get on? It took me about 6 months to gather all this stuff up, to give to the guy. And like you said, he called himself, he called it a concierge, whatever that word is, service. He has like so many clients. He takes care of them. That's all he does,
Yeah.
And, like you say, you call him up, hey, do I need to be getting some gold? What, or whatever. And he would tell you, do I need to lick cash out? No, do not do that. But you know what I'm saying. So I understand where you're coming from, there.
That's so bizarre. My parents just came back from the bank with their financial advisor, and my mother, okay, she's 86. Her father passed away, gosh knows how, like she was 29. And from the house, she put it into this little investment thing. And she goes, it goes up and down and up and down. And she goes, should I take it out? Maybe pay off a little for a line of credit. And her financial advisor, no, just keep it there. And Dad said, no, keep it there. It's been there that long. Like, what's the difference? But it was nice the financial advisor follow through that, because some people sit there going, no, put it here, go in there. And they said, no,
Yeah.
What? It may go up, and the interest rates apparently are going to be going up. And so just stick it out. And
Yeah,
since you haven't done anything much with it all these years, why change now?
That's right. Exactly.
So from a financial advisor, what made you want to start a podcast?
I think COVID, right? COVID was probably a big player on that. In my line of work, a lot of travel, right? Driving back and forth, probably drove 3-4 hours a day back and forth. When COVID hit and we were able to do that on a Zoom meeting, it freed me up a lot of time, right? I could do yes, I could do way more appointments and I could train my team more and I could do all of those things, but I was already doing that, right? And I was finding I had so much time. So I've already been starting that process of thinking about starting a podcast. And I wanted to do a podcast with one of my girlfriends that we've known each other for 35 plus years. We grew up pretty hard, right? So I thought if we could do a podcast that we're just telling kind of our crazy upbringing stories, I thought that would be really, really powerful and inspiring. You know, I was all in. I think she was all in too, but again, her life was very different than mine. Still raising 2 kids, had a business, psycho boyfriend. Do you know what I mean? So it just, the timing wasn't right. So I thought, hey, what if I did a podcast with my daughter? That would be really cool. And we could just like find crazy stories and you know, so I put an ad out on Kijiji and I was getting all this response. And I'll be honest, I was like, oh my God, these stories are a lot. And in my line of work, and I train a team across Canada, there's a lot of babies, let's just say, right? Like you're always hearing some kind of sob story. And not that that's not good and not that I'm not compassionate, but I have a threshold and it's not very high. So I can be compassionate, but for 5 minutes, let's go, let's move on, let's get going, let's change your state, let's fix the situation. And I thought if I did that already with my finance business, and then I'm going to go and do that as fun on my podcast, I'd probably shoot myself in the face. It wasn't working. So I thought, what could I do by myself that I absolutely love that would be really good? And I love music, and it just organically happened. Me and my husband were sitting at the table having a glass of wine. We were listening to his playlist. And I said, oh, do you remember this song? What does this song remind you of? And he said, it reminds me of this. And I'm like, why don't I just do a podcast about people's playlists and have them come to the house and ask some questions? And he's like, yeah, that sounds really cool. I'm like, great. And he goes, let's go do it right now. And I'm like, what? So if you ever get a chance to watch the first one, I am literally like in my pajamas and he's across the table. I don't even have questions. I'm like looking online for questions. So I'm like turning around, looking online, asking him the question, playing the song for 10 minutes. Like we're all over the place. But it was fun. And then I did my daughter, and then I did another really good friend, and it just kind of spiraled from there. So it was really cool that it organically happened the way that it was supposed to happen.
Now, do you have a musical background?
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, I've dabbled in the drums. I'm a really horrible drum player still after 15 years. And I know how to DJ, right? I think anybody knows how to DJ. Let's be honest. You plug an iPod in, play some music. It's pretty easy. So other than that, and then I would probably put myself up to a country to play Name That Tune and probably win. That's how musically inclined I am. That's how confident I am about hearing a song, like a snippet, and being able to know where it was. I'm the queen of Name That Tune. So I'm pretty proud of that title.
You'd be great on Shazam then.
I usually beat Shazam or whatever it's called.
Shazam.
I'm just, because I was on your podcast, and of course I've seen quite a few of them and they're lovely. I had a question in regards to, you have some, and I know that you ask out there, are there any questions that you want to ask? But originally you had your questions. How did you come up with them? Because some of them, I swear, like, okay, so like you were the financial industry, and I'm sure that there's certain things you don't want to go out there. And I'm sitting there, but I'm telling you things I probably shouldn't. You're really good at to get people out to say that. But some of the questions are like, oh my gosh, I'm on Annette's Music Junkie show, and I just said that because the music brought it back.
Yeah, and here is probably one of my best skills. If I was going to say I have a great skill at anything, it's pulling stuff out of people. I've always been really, really good at that. I can meet somebody and be their best friend in like 10 minutes. I've always had this quality. So I knew going into this podcast that I could probably, first of all, I could ask anybody and they were going to say yes. Right. And then they knew coming on my podcast, there's probably going to be some kind of sexual innuendo or crazy questions that were going to be asked. And no matter what, because it was me, they were just going to answer. So I didn't really have to come up with too many types of different questions. I did, some of them that I like to use, like describe, if I was blind, describe the color yellow. Obviously, those types of questions, I went and kind of looked online and said, what's some weird questions that you could ask somebody. But it all comes back to being able to do some shock value to them. And they know up front, right? I want to shock you a little bit for your honest, right? Because my whole point of the podcast is I want it to be real and I want it to be honest. I don't want it to be any form of script at all. That's why if you listen to my podcast, there's probably only 1 or 2 or 3 questions that I ask repeatedly. Other than that, it's usually different. And I never know what rabbit hole I'm going down anytime I'm sitting with somebody. I don't know. So I could have a list of questions, but they could go down something totally different that I want to maybe just stay on that because I think it's good. Or maybe I don't know them and they're like a crazy Christian, like I just did the other day, a cop Christian guy. And I was like, oh God, can I talk about penis size? I don't know. What is he going to let me talk about? So sometimes I refrain myself, but then I catch myself going, no, I can't do that because then that's not me. But sometimes it doesn't even need to go there because they'll just automatically just start talking about it. And then I can just feed off that. I can just ask indirect questions to do with that.
It's interesting because when Lori Ann and I started, it was, a fluke pretty much, and we started out interviewing each other. The differences were she was single and I was being married for 100 years. That was kind of our first deal. But the thing is, we've evolved. And one of the things you said is we may be interviewing you, say, for example, as a financial planner, but all of a sudden you say something, you're like, holy cow, this is a lot more interesting than being a financial planner. So we go a wholly different direction that we had no idea we were going in.
That's right.
And that's kind of how we evolved to lift your story, because we think everybody has a story.
Yeah, I agree.
And it may not be the one you started with.
That's right.
So there you go. How did you end up loving music so much and being that person who you hear a tune and you can come up with the title of the name of the song?
I don't know. I've just always been like that. It's always been in my blood. I couldn't say there was anybody that was influential in my life at all, right? At all. There was nobody that always had music on. I just always loved music. I could go back. I did some friends back in elementary school, which was even crazy to hear. They said, I remember going over to your house and in grade 6 and drinking wine in grade 6, so bad, but drinking wine in grade 6 and listening to music. I just remember the music. I just remember you always had music on. You brought a ghetto blaster to elementary, and we used to like dance to Madonna in the little breakout rooms, and we put like shows on, and like I just always loved music. So I always wanted to do something with music, whether it was playing the drums. Obviously, then I loved the whole idea of DJing because I love the idea of mixing and creating music. But then it just was not, it was really easy. I found it really easy. Maybe if I had turntables and crazy stuff like that, maybe I'd find it a little bit more hard, but I didn't find that aspect of it hard, and it wasn't what I was really looking for. So then I thought maybe I should do like some producing music. That would be really, really cool. And, I took some classes and that seemed really awesome, but I think it just had to be this. I think I needed to be with somebody on the other end, dealing with emotion, having tons of humor because I'm like super humorous and out and blunt and off the wall. And I needed to have that be a part of the music as well, right? That's why I think that this can evolve so much, because I just believe like this is just the starting point of the podcast, right? Once, as it evolves, there could be so much that could be added to it. There's no endless discovery of this to change it, to make it different. Every day, I'm always coming up with different ideas where I can implement previous guests, and maybe I have 2 couples on here that I've already did. So I don't think that there's ever going to be an end to it, because it's you know, there's always going to be another song. There's always going to be somebody else that's been affected by music.
You know, you were talking about your husband's playlist. You know, I grew up in the 60s, which to me, what was probably the best music ever back in the 60s. So, and my sons one time said, Dad, you've got to get out of the 60s. You know, you got to listen to other things. And so I said, yeah, but you don't understand. I can hear a song and I'll know exactly where me and your mom were, what we were doing with that song. You know, I said, you play any song and I can tell you, we were here, we were doing this. We were on our way here. I said, you know, that's why I like it so much, because I just have so many good memories of your mom and I back then. We were dating and stuff, you know. So, you know, for me, that's what it is to me, you know.
And that's exactly what it is to me.
And he gives me a hard time, but then he came over one day and goes, hey, Dad, can I take some of your CDs? And you know, I said, oh, you mean those 60 CDs? That's the one? Shut up, just let me have the CDs.
Yeah, and that's what I love the most about it, is because the process of people putting their playlist together is amazing, because I get to hear that story. And I've had a lot of emotion, like people be very, very emotional through that process, putting that podcast or playlist together. That part I love the most, because I get to kind of experience that with them. I can see instantly when I'm watching them, and like I can see the memory and that come up, whether it's, you know, something that's really heartbreaking or it's something really exciting or whatever it is. I love, that's probably my favorite part of it. And then obviously my second favorite part is just throwing outlandish questions out there that throw them off, because people can kind of go down this rabbit hole a little bit. And not that I don't want you to go down a rabbit hole, but I don't want you to go so deep that I can't take you out of the rabbit hole. I want emotion to be like this. I got her up, I got her down, I got her up, I got her down. It's like sex, right? That's how I want it. I want the start, the middle, and the ending, right? But it's a roller coaster as you're going through it. That's what I want. And I love when I haven't really had a bad guest yet. I've had people that I felt were a little vanilla and shy, which is totally fine. There's nothing wrong with that, because there's lots of people out there like that. But I still get something out of them. And that's what I love about it, because then I look at it more as a challenge. And I look at it as like just learning. Oh, okay, this is the type of person this is. Okay, well, how far can I go? And eventually I'll be able to put my whole personality in there, right? And then it's going to get crazy.
You know, when you have somebody on and you kind of look at them, you think, okay, you kind of have a perception of what you think they're going to be like, their music, right? And then you start into it and they're just totally like, never would have expected that. You know, just say me, I'm not, but just say I'm not, but just say I was into rap. You know, if you looked at me, you'd never figure I was into rap, you know. Trust me, I'm not. I'm just saying. But
yeah. Mostly what I've seen though is that their playlists so far are totally them. 100%. I had, you know, it was funny the other day I did a podcast and the lady got on. I never met her. And I was looking at her playlist and it was all rap. I was like, what the, this is not lining up. Like there's something, she's like a you know, a national bookseller, you know, Christian rock band. I'm like, what is happening? This is not. So I play the first song and she can't really hear it. She's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, really? This is crazy. This is going to be crazy. And then I actually played most of the song and she's like, yeah, that's not my playlist. So I was like, for the first time, I was like, is this really happening? Like I usually am pretty good perspective of when I see people's playlists. I can kind of get an idea of what type of person they are, how far I can push them just from their songs.
That makes sense. That's actually like there's so much psychology behind it too, and their history and where they go. I'm sitting there going, I was driving yesterday going, we have Annette on tomorrow, and I'm thinking I was on her podcast. I was probably one of the most boring people on her podcast.
God no.
I'm waiting for those, you know, questions. And then of course I went down a little rabbit hole there. You did pull me back up there again. I mean, it really wasn't. I'm not in that rabbit hole. put it, but when the stories get so long, you want to shorten them and then cut them off.
Yeah.
I get that. It's not always a rabbit hole. Sometimes it's just like ooh, this happened. And Roy
Yeah.
knows that for 5 hours on the telephone sometimes.
And I think it's more like if somebody sent me a playlist and it was like all of like a really awful memory that they have, you know, it's like they don't mix it up. It's like awful. And then like by the fourth one, I'm like, okay, right. Like I understand this happened to you and that's awful, but we gotta move on. We gotta put some more good stuff in there. So I think even when people are putting their playlists, they can go down their own little rabbit hole where this song leads to this song, leads to this song, leads to this song. So I think it all really depends. That's why I always ask, is your playlist, you know, in order, or can I mix? I like to mix it around, because if it's in order, then I don't know what is going to come out. And if it is something dark and I can't get them out of it, it's like we just did a full playlist on who knows what. We're
Eminem,
yes.
you know,
What's that?
Mommy in the Closet, whatever that one is,
Yeah.
that my kids used to sing to me. Like
Yeah,
I'm
you-
going, you want me dead?
You don't know. And sometimes I'll throw like a random song in there just to be like, okay, no, I don't know that song. Good, thank God we got you out of it. Let's move on, right? Because I think it just, you know, I did a podcast the other day and a lady was just going through a divorce, like literally like 6 months ago. But she said, oh my God, every single one of my songs that we've played over the last kind of 5 songs all came back to my divorce. And it wasn't like she was going down this divorce rabbit hole. She just said, oh, I remember I got married to this song, right? This song brought up this song, you know, our daughter sings this song when we were together. And I said, that's not a bad thing. That's just where you are right now. But in my head, I'm thinking, I hope the whole effing playlist isn't about this guy that you're not with anymore. Because I'm going to start bringing up questions about new guys and getting banged by those guys and that guys just to get you out of your state.
Which you did
Right?
with me, because there were a few of mine that were about my ex-husband. You go, where's that from? Where's that from? Where's that from? I'm going, holy crap, I didn't realize my playlist has so many of those. Okay, I had more of them, but somehow the ones you picked. But it was getting a little bit nervous, and I thought, wow. And I do talk about my ex-husband a lot. I was, you know, in love with him for 22 years. I mean, it's, you know, I know I'm 58, but that's still a big part of my life. So that is, but then there also had kids during that time, and there's all this like 22
Yeah.
years of a very big period of your life. You know, I mean, Roy didn't divorce, but I mean, I would imagine though, if anything happened to Barbara, you know, from 18 to 40, it's a huge part of your life. After 40, that's when
Yeah.
life begins. Heck with that. So like, you know, for
And I
you,
think-
I'm not talking about, you know.
I think with your podcast, so the reason why I wanted you to stay down that rabbit hole is what actually happened during that whole entire marriage. That was the story that I wanted to get out. It wasn't necessarily all these little things. It was actually the full story, right? And I think so many women and men have been in a long-term relationship for a long time and have went through infidelity, right? I think a lot of people have went through that. And I think your story is crazy. That's why I wanted you to stay with it, because I think there's a lot of people that can relate to it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I wanted to get out of it. That's why I wanted to stay there. That's why when we were done, I said to you, I want to do another one, because I think that this one was just for that story. Not so much a whole bunch of different stories in your life, but just for this story. And that's what I loved about it, is because it was just organically focused on that story. And I personally did not feel that we needed to move anywhere else, because I truly felt like it was a really good story. And I thought other people need to hear this, because I know that there's another person out there listening going, oh, I had a fucking asshole like that too, right? And that's what you want to know. Am I the only one?
True. So very good. So you actually you can look at a playlist, because I know I had a lot more songs on there than we played. So you strategically pick these for your story. So you're a very good, so to speak, reporter podcaster, because you know what you're detailing and what you're looking at and listening to the music and everything. That is brilliant.
I don't know a lot about, like, if I don't know that person, it's hard for me to kind of dissect that. But if they're a friend of mine and I hear and I see their playlist and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't generally know that Whitney Houston, I Will Always Love You is like your wedding song. It could be, you know, I just found out this the other day. It could have been, and it was something totally different. But your assumption is, oh, it's like when you're in love and but this was not. This was like not that at all. So sometimes I like those curveballs, but I think I just get more in their head. Like if it's all a sappy playlist, I'm like, do you have any, then I get to have fun with it. Geez, do you not have any fun in your life? Like, fuck, you're crying every day to your playlist. Like, let's throw some Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch in here. Like, what's going on? But I get to kind of pick questions like that and be like, are you always sad? And they're like, no. So I get to play around with it a little bit, I guess. And that's the part I like.
Right. Do you have any questions? Because this is fun. And like she said, your wish may come true. So beware and get to know Annette, because when you get on her podcast, you'll ask you things like, you know, sorry, I do have to bring this one up. She goes, so what age do you like them? 24? I'm 59. I know. I mean, my kids are 32. I just thought it would be so weird. But
no,
I was single at 59. I would be banging 24-year-olds.
I can see her now. Holy shit! Out of all the people I've had on, you're the most boring person I've seen in my freaking life.
Love it. Love your podcast. Seriously, it's been such a pleasure, you know, watching them, helping you out with them as well, and getting to know you, Annette, honest to goodness.
Yeah, I've appreciated all your hard work, referrals, right? Promoting. It's been fun. Like you've helped me in all of these little spaces, right? I love this whole community. That's what I love most about it. I said this the other day, you know, in finance, I don't want to say like rejection is a bad thing, but you do get a lot of rejection. Mm-hmm. And it has just been so refreshing to like get no rejection, right? When you've been in a business for so long, it's just part of it, right? Finance is just part of it. Not everybody wants to look at their finances. That's okay. But most people like music, and you're asking the right type of person. You're not just throwing the rod out there and just be like, hey, random dude on the street, do you want to come on my podcast? I should probably do that. That would be.
I was going to say that may work too, though.
Well,
it wouldn't be a good one. Play the guitar on the side of the road. That would be cool.
How can someone get on your podcast?
Yeah, they can just reach out to me. I'm on Instagram, you know, music junkies _ on Instagram. They can, you know, and you don't have to have a musical background. I just want you to love music. I want you to have, you know, a sense of humor. That would probably be a really good thing. Open, right? Just be open to sharing your story and just have a good time. So you don't need to be a musician, right? You can just be a regular old Joe that just loves music and thinks that they might have some crazy stories to share.
There you go, Roy.
Cool.
Sign him up.
I just got his email.
So many crazy stories. Nobody actually does have some great stories. I don't know how crazy. He might have some really crazy stories. Maybe I'll learn more about Roy when he's on your podcast.
Just send me a list of questions you want me to ask him.
Beware, Roy. Be very, very scared. Oh, just lovely. And thank you again. So again, just if you can lay it out where they're going to be able to go. Do you have a sign up form for them with anything like that? Or is it best for them to just connect with you on? Yeah,
they can find me on Facebook under Music Junkies. They can just, you know, probably Instagram's best. Just send me a message. Like, hey, I heard you on a podcast. I'd love to be on your show. We'll have a conversation because obviously I don't want no psychos on there and, you know, made up stories or crazy stuff like that. I like to meet them on a Zoom and have just a conversation. I have a really good perspective, people. I can kind of tell what's going on immediately. If I think that they're going to be good on the show, or if I just think that they're full of shit. So yeah, just the way they talk. I'd love to just meet them over a Zoom. And then I really lay out everything that's going to really happen on that show. I recommend them going and listening to an episode, because people say, yeah, I'm open. And then I ask them if they like anal, and then they're freaked out, right? So we gotta figure out which way, right? So I'm not gonna stop being me, so I want them to be comfortable with them being them on my podcast. And the only way for them to know that is to go and listen to a couple and see how I ask questions, what types of questions, how comfortable are those guests. And I've never had anybody walk off yet. I've only had one pass card, so we're pretty safe.
Just a final thing too, because I know Music Junkies. I have looked it up. If you Google it, there are a couple, but you have one that puts you out. So if you put Music Junkies with Annette Smith, I believe that will come up a lot faster for them to find it, right?
Yeah, and if you put Music Junkies podcast, that would be mine.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
I just want to make sure they find it, because I know that that's one thing we searched, and I know you talked about it in another podcast when you were a guest about that, and that there are a few, and we looked up the Lift Your Story, because last thing you want is somebody had the sports one and they go, nobody finds me. Well, yeah, because there's like 20 of you out there.
Yeah, you just got to look for a hot blonde,
Yeah.
right?
Hot
Music
blonde, there we
Junkies
go.
podcast, hot blonde.
Where?
Oh, keep it up, Roy. I'm marking down your question right now.
I love it. All right, thanks again, Annette. Really appreciate you being here. What a great
It was a lot of fun. Annette.
Yeah, anytime. I'd love it. Anytime. We'll do round 2.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. Thanks for listening today. Hope you enjoyed the show. New episodes out every Monday. Please share with a friend and subscribe because you want to. And like me because you like me. Leave a comment so we can connect. And if you have a great playlist and you want to share, I'd love to have you on the show. Please reach out to me on Instagram at The Music Junkies Podcast.